Live picture of the United States Capitol. Sun still not quite up at 6:51 in the morning. Israel and Hamas appear to be getting closer now to striking a new deal for the release of hostages. Sources with knowledge of the discussions tell Reuters both sides have agreed in principle that an exchange of Israeli hostages for Palestinian prisoners can take place during a month-long ceasefire. But that plan reportedly is being held up by differences over how to bring a permanent end to the war. This comes as tensions continue to rise across the Middle East. Late last night, the United States launched another strike against Houthi military sites in Yemen, destroying 2 anti-ship missiles the Pentagon says posed an imminent threat. Joining us now, former Supreme Allied Commander of NATO, retired 4-star Navy Admiral James Stavridis. He is Chief International Analyst for NBC News. Admiral, it's good to see you. So let's talk about what's going on in the Red Sea right now, which is that American carriers and ships and fighter jets are attacking Houthi positions that they say are going after cargo ships in the sea and targeting American interests as well. Do you worry about where this goes if the Houthis and the Iranian-backed militias continue to escalate, what the United States is going to have to do in return?
Yeah, it's the right question to be asking. I would say that 3 things to bear in mind. Number one, this is not just American interests. If we allow this to continue, you're going to see fuel prices rise, the global economy start to choke. It's a very bad fact set for the global economy. Secondly, the Houthis appear to be determined to continue these strikes. And so in response, I think the administration is doing exactly the right thing, Willie, which is, and you're showing it right here in this graphic, going after the surgical instruments that are being used to strike these ships, the missile launchers, the radars, the command and control, the fuel, the small boats. And frankly, at the end of the day, we can do that very effectively. The real message is to Tehran. Here we get to your point. I'm somewhat concerned, but I think it's a 1 in 5 chance that Iran really takes on the U.S. and really gets fired up behind the Houthis. Another way to put it is the Iranians will fight to the last Houthi, but they're not going to be putting Iranian armed forces in harm's way.
But you also have American bases, as you know, in Iraq being targeted. They're going after whatever it is, an irritation, but there are real injuries being inflicted on these. So what is the goal of Iran here? What does it want here?
Yeah, a good way to think about it is take a map of the ancient Persian Empire and overlay it on the Middle East. What they want to do is continue to press forward, perpetuate their brand of Islam, Shia, and finally create as much disturbance in the global economy as they can, all for political benefit. And, oh, by the way, they don't mind those rising oil prices that are coming out of this.
So, Admiral, let's talk about the other headline there about this potential deal for a ceasefire in exchange for hostages. You know, Reuters reports there's still some snags. It's not done yet. And we've been close to deals before that have then fallen apart. What's your read? Is this something, from what you know, do you think that both the Israelis and Hamas would go for something like this?
I do. I think there's motivation on both sides to get more of these hostages out and Palestinian prisoners out. We can probably find some trade space in there, Jonathan. But secondly, at the end of the day, the Israelis are going to continue to go after that tunnel system and the Hamas leadership. The hostages can be set off to one side. Let's hope we can get a breakthrough.
So Admiral, I'm going to ask a question, but I asked the question knowing that we're probably on the same side on this one. But if your home kept getting broken into by teenagers, and you kept figuring out after you called the cops and they got sent to jail that your neighbors across the street were paying teenagers to break into your house, how long would you keep worrying about the teenagers instead of walking across the street and doing to your neighbor what you should do to your neighbor and get him or her arrested? Of course, the question is, how much longer are we going to put up with this BS from Iran? How much longer? We've been doing it since 1979. Does Iran want to fight? I don't want a war, but I know this. as much as I don't want a war with Iran, they want one less. Because Iran would be over in about a week or two. If the United States military decided to destroy their oil fields, destroy their bases, destroy their infrastructure, you know what? I say a week or two, I'm being modest. It'd be a couple of days. So how much longer do we let Iran pay people to try to kill Americans, try to disrupt our trade?
The short answer is not very much longer at all. So we're still punching the teenagers in the nose. But you're right. The next step is to go pound on the door across the street. That door is in Tehran. And I'll close with this. I would go after the Iranian Navy. Go back to the late 1980s. We sank about a third of the Iranian Navy when they tried to mine the Strait of Hormuz. Maybe it's time to go pound on that door.
Retired four-star Admiral James Stavridis, thank you so much for being on this morning. We'll talk to you again soon.
I like how you think.
I know.